New this morning, President Trump's sweeping new travel ban is now in effect. As of midnight, citizens from 12 countries, mostly in Africa and the Middle East, are now barred from entering the United States. And people from 7 other nations now face new travel restrictions. So what is the impact? CNN's Kevin Liptak is at the White House tracking this one for us. And Kevin, what are you hearing from the White House about this so far?
Yeah, this could potentially affect tens of thousands of foreign nationals from those countries on that map, which the White House says has deficient screening and vetting processes for their passports. They've also identified a number of these countries as having a high rate of visa overstay in the United States. There are an additional 7 countries whose nationals could face some type of travel restriction when coming to the U.S. Now, the State Department says that this ban would apply only to those who are outside of the U.S. and don't have a visa on the effective date, which is today. They say that visa applications would continue to be reviewed as appropriate, but that applicants would be rejected unless they met some of the criteria for the exceptions to this ban. And there is quite a lengthy list of exceptions, including dual nationals, diplomats, coaches, and athletes who may be coming to the United States to participate in major sporting events like the World Cup, like the LA Olympics. You also see exceptions for adoptions, special immigrant visas for Afghans who assisted the U.S. in the war effort, and for certain people facing persecution in Iran. Now, you'll remember the president originally announced this ban, framing it as necessary to protect the U.S. from terrorist attacks. He announced it after that anti-Semitic attack in Colorado last week. We should note that the perpetrator of that attack, the alleged perpetrator, has been identified as an Egyptian national. Egypt is not included on this list. Of course, this is all coming amid high tensions over the president's immigration enforcement agenda. There are some important parallels, I think, to what's happening in LA. Both of these represent, historically speaking, quite extreme actions that the president either attempted to take or tried or thought about taking during his first term in office. Both were stymied either by aides who reined him in or by the courts. But when it comes to this travel ban, the administration clearly learning some lessons from the first time around, really trying to button up the justification and the rationale. Legal experts say that that can make it more difficult to challenge in court. Kate.
Great point, and very interesting making those parallels as you do so well. Kevin, thank you so much. It is really good to see you.
President Trump's sweeping new travel ban took effect overnight, barring foreign nationals from a dozen countries from traveling to the U.S., and citizens from 7 more countries are now facing new restrictions. There are some exceptions, including for Afghans who help the U.S. government. They fall under a special immigrant visa program. More than 50,000 Afghans have received a visa through that program since 2009. Joining us now is Sean Vandiver, the president of Afghan Evac, a nonprofit working to resettle Afghans who aided the United States. We made the distinction there that there are different visas for those who help the United States. But from what you are hearing and learning, are those Afghans who help the U.S. being hurt by these new restrictions?
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me on today, Sarah. Yes, it is so great that there's an exemption there, right? But even for those exempt under the executive order, there's a lack of implementation guidance that's causing chaos. This executive order creates this false sense of reassurance where it sounds great, but the underlying infrastructure, the Coordinator for Afghan Relocation Efforts Office of the State Department, that's been just disbanded. It's going to go away by July 1st. And then there's the safest, most secure legal immigration system, Enduring Welcome, built hand in hand with veterans and civil society during the last administration. That's going away by September 30th. So even though on paper there's an exemption for Afghan SIVs, which is great, and their family members, in practice, they're not going to be able to make it here because the underlying systems that get them here are being dismantled.
You know, that is a really good point that you are making here. You're seeing the fallout from this yourself and your organization. Your organization also made this graphic showing all the things that are going away. What is the wider fallout from this new ban?
Well, sure. There are 250,000 Afghans that still need to come here, and SIVs are only part of the story, right? You've got folks in the refugee category who are prosecutors and lawyers who put the Taliban away. You've got partner forces who trained, fought, and bled alongside our service members. You've got family of active duty service members. There are 3,000 individuals who are family of our currently serving active duty service members who are trapped. And if your viewers want to help, they can get involved with Afghan Evac. Go to afghanevac.org/donate. We need your help to keep this fight going, because if we allow them to dismantle Enduring Welcome, these folks, these 12,000 family members, there's 12,000 family reunification cases that are never going to go back together if we don't have the American people standing up. And we know, I heard in your last segment that the American people are with the president on this. That's true, except in this case, 90% of the American public supports the ongoing relocation of Afghan wartime allies, and it's so important we get this right.
Look, one of the pushbacks from the administration and in the executive order as well is the Taliban now runs Afghanistan, and the U.S. says they're not competent or cooperative on issuing things like passports. They're not able to do vetting. How do you respond to the administration's concern?
Sure. So I'd say it depends on what day or which official you talk to, right? You've got Secretary Noam, who's out there waving the flag, saying with Khalilzad, saying that, oh, everything's fine, everything's safe there. And then on the other hand, you've got a level 4 travel advisory from the State Department and this visa ban coming out. I think the Trump administration needs to get their story straight on whether or not Afghanistan is safe. We're here to tell them, if they would take a meeting with us, that it is not safe to go to Afghanistan. We're getting pictures every day of the retributions that are happening. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Brian Mast, just last January, organized a roundtable all about Taliban reprisals, and he went name by name on people who had been killed. It's up on our social media. I don't know why there's this disconnect right now, but what I do know is that it's not safe to go there. I know that it doesn't matter if the Taliban is vetting. We don't even recognize that government. What is true is that we have more information because of our 20 years at war in Afghanistan on all of these folks that are known to us. Everybody in this pipeline is somebody who is known to us because they were referred in or referred by an active duty service member.
You
the
talked
truth
about
is that every one of these folks has earned their right to come here.
What does this mean to the people in the U.S. now whose status is still pending and the families who are waiting and hoping for those who have just about been cleared?
Sure. So let's take first the folks who are here. If you are here, you're generally safe if you got here on a durable status as a refugee or as an SIV. Generally, you're safe. The number one thing I can tell people is consult an immigration attorney. If you're already here, make sure your case is good. And they can go to afghanevac.org/resources to find it. For folks that are awaiting reunification or folks that are awaiting coming here, the good news is SIVs are exempt. Their immediate family members will be exempt. The rough news is that if you're in the refugee track or if you're an asylee follow to join or a follow to join refugee, if you filled out an I-730 or if you're waiting for humanitarian parole, we understand that CBP has issued guidance and there's internal state guidance over the weekend that says those cases will be paused while the lawyers sort of figure it out. The biggest news is don't take any action. Don't respond to the scary emails that are coming from government before you talk to a qualified immigration attorney.
That is good advice, Sean Van Diver. Thank you so much for explaining that to us and giving your expertise on what is happening now with these new travel bans when it comes to Afghans. Appreciate it.
Kevin Liptak was saying the same in the way that it's written, in the way that they've been discussing it within the Trump administration, is they clearly learned lessons from the mess that was. I mean, I remember us discussing the first travel ban when this all went down in the first administration, that it is different. It is tailored a different way this time around. But what is the impact is so
well, the way they have tailored it, they, as Ellie said, they have learned from their past mistakes. The travel ban in the first administration, it was very rushed. It did not meet sort of the technical requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act. It was rolled out so chaotically, so we had these scenes of confusion at airports.
People were like in airplanes
airport,
when they landed.
People who were on their way here didn't know what was happening. This time, it's been presented in a much more orderly way. It's more narrowly tailored, not specifically aimed at only Muslim majority nations. But I do think a weakness in this new iteration that could provide an opening for a legal challenge is that it focuses on visa overstays. And the U.S. doesn't even have an accurate count of our visa overstays because some people come here on their visa and then apply for asylum. So they're not technically an undocumented population. And trying to ban people who come here on an immigrant visa, banning all people from certain nations who come here on an immigrant visa because of people who came on a non-immigrant visa and overstayed, that's apples and oranges. There are two completely classes under immigration, classes of people under immigration law. So I think that rationale would give an opening to legal challenges from immigrant rights groups and progressive groups against this new version of the travel ban.
Very interesting. Good to see you, Earl. Thank
You
you
too.
so much.